right, so today we have the wonderful opportunity of having Ben Ray go through the iFormBuilder and Esri integrations.
This is really great. Thank you very much, Barrett. I'm happy to be here today, and I'd like to welcome everyone to the webinar. And if anyone is on from the Esri User Conference, it's great to chat with you again. So my name is Ben Ray. I'm a solutions engineer. If you were out at the UC, hopefully we got to chat. But essentially, we want to make this session really kind of more of a how-to on how to first get started on a project with iFormBuilder and Esri, and go through a few specific demos. So there is a very unique way that we work with ArcGIS and mapping and visualization tools. So that's kind of what we want to go over here today. So I'm just going to hop here to the next slide and just give you a quick overview of what we're going to do. So first, we're going to talk about how to start your iForm ArcGIS project, because there's many pieces in here, and you got to kind of think about it from a different angle, from the mapping side and the form side, to figure out really what you want to accomplish. Next, I want to give an overview and demo of our ArcGIS connector. So this connects our iFormBuilder application to ArcGIS Online to submit data instantaneously. And then I want to go into something that we really have seen used a lot more recently, is our demo of iForm and the collector integration. So you start from the collector application on ArcGIS and invoke an iFormBuilder form. And that really shows how you can use custom map services and map features and integrate it directly with iFormBuilder. And then the last thing, we've had a ton of requests about using not just points, but lines and polygons. And some people were saying that maybe we don't know how to do it, or we can't do it. And I just want to show that, yes, it is possible, and they do behave the same way as points. There's just a slightly different workflow that you would need to follow. So I'm going to move next here and just first discuss. I apologize, wrong link. First, I want to just discuss kind of how to get started on your GIS project. So really, the first thing to think about is really that it is all about the map. So you want to think about, where do you first need this map, and when do you need this map? Do you need it out in the field? Do you need it to be disconnected or connected? Do you need it maybe in your office? Do you need it everywhere? Or maybe you don't even need a map. There's a lot of folks out there that think just simply because GIS is involved in some way that they may need a map, but really they may not need one. And then two, from the form side, I mean, when and where do you need these forms? From the iFormBuilder side, do you need it in the field? Do you need it in the office? Or do you need it everywhere? And again, to add to that, maybe let's say we need the forms out in the field disconnected, and we need the maps out in the field disconnected, and we need the forms everywhere. So then we want to use an approach similar to where we have collector as our mapping interface, and then use iFormBuilder for the forms. But maybe you don't need a map and you just need some forms. You're going to start your project slightly differently. So there's a lot of different combinations, and that's why each project is very, very unique, and you want to take in these two concepts, the mapping side as well as the form side, when discussing this. So let's first move in, now that we kind of know how to start our project. Let's say that in this scenario that I'm going to go into, we need forms out in the office in this scenario, and we need maps out in the office, and we need forms out in the field as well as everywhere. So in this scenario, we're only looking at the form on the mobile device, but then we're viewing the data in the office, we're viewing the maps in the office. So I just want to put this in perspective. This is on the Arc connector piece. So in this scenario, we're going to take a form that we have, and we're going to publish a feature service from it on ArcGIS Online. We also could take a form that we have, or a feature service that we have, and build a form from it. Now this will be different if you already have a feature service on ArcGIS Online. You'll want to go with the first approach. So you want to take a form or feature service and then build a form. But if you already have forms built and you're coming from the iFormBuilder side, you want to build a form and then create a feature service off of that. So again, in this scenario, we already have a form built, so we're going to publish it as a feature service. Now, the big benefit of this connector is it is integrated tightly with ArcGIS Online, but when records are submitted, they're going to be posted instantaneously to ArcGIS Online. So the moment you sync that record up, once you hit connectivity, we're going to post that first by the modified location, first by the Esri widget, if you have one on your form, then by your modified location, then by your created location. Because in some scenarios, you may not use the Esri widget, and in some scenarios, you may use your created location or your modified location. And then one other thing we did add recently is an update feature. So this is pretty beneficial if, let's say, we fill out one of these forms and there's some issues on it, and we want to maybe reassign it back out to the field. We could reassign that form, and it's going to have an object ID that is specified in ArcGIS associated with it. So when we submit this form again from the assigned record, it's going to go perform an update feature and change whatever needs to be changed on that specific point, line, or polygon on the map. So the demo that I'm going to show today is the wetlands delineation form. This is a really popular form. It is available for sale on our iFormBuilder forms that we have. But essentially, this scenario is you're a wetlands inspector, and you're going to be performing this inspection prior to constructing a new building or a new structure somewhere. So some of the tools that we're using here, we're using ArcGIS for the data visualization side of things. So once we capture the record on the device, it's going to be plotted on ArcGIS Online map with all of the data there. And then we're also going to be using WebMerge for the custom PDF output. So WebMerge is a very powerful tool. It allows you to kind of take a custom PDF structure, which is the wetlands delineation form, and take iFormBuilder data that's submitted and insert it into those specific fields. So you can have an output and a deliverable that you're looking for this specific client. So this is the steps to kind of get this going. The first thing you're going to want to do is create a form. And just for sake of time, we're not going to do that today. I already have one built. You must make sure that your form contains an Esri widget. And once it contains an Esri widget, we're going to go into the Arc Connector page. So the URL is here, and we'll be sure to share it after the call. But essentially, you'll go to this URL, and inside of here, you're going to link up with your ArcGIS Online account. And then you're going to choose the form, which is our wetlands delineation form. And what we're going to do next is take that form and say publish it to the web. So it's actually going to publish it to ArcGIS Online and build a feature service off of that. And now that is going to perform a direct link with ArcGIS Online, so every record you submit will now be plotted on that map. So I'm just going to exit here and go back to my screen here. So I'm just going to go into FormBuilder here quickly and show you kind of what I have set up already. So inside of FormBuilder, I'll hop down to our wetlands form here. And you'll see I have an Esri widget here. Now, once I've added this Esri widget, I have it set as disabled right now, because every time I open up the form, I don't want to plot a point on the map. I just want to use my current location. So I'm going to add it here, but disable it, and instead use my current location. So here's the form. As you'll see, it's quite long. I mean, there's over 100 and
so Ben, there's a question on why would you add it and then disable that? And I know the answer, but I think it might be a little bit better if you explain that.
Yes, certainly. So I'm just going to actually, I can show you right now kind of the main reason we disabled it. So the Esri widget by default will start you in a map view. But maybe if you're disconnected in the field, or you don't want to start in a map view, you just want to use your current location to plot your point on the map, you would want to utilize the disabled feature. So let me just make sure I open the right reflector here.
And while you're
and I'm going to
loading
show
that
my
information,
device here in just a quick second.
Sorry, Ben. I was just going to say, while you're loading your device up there to show everybody, there was another question about that in the Esri widget. Do you need to have an Esri account or be connected to Esri to use the Esri widget within iFormBuilder?
Great question. So the point of the Esri widget is it's a dual-purpose widget. So essentially, I'm going to show quickly here. I'm going to enable it and show you how it behaves. So I'm going to sync my device. Now, this purpose of this widget is to allow you to open to a map view and specify a location of where you want to drop a point on a map. So for example, I'm going to open up this form here and create plus, and since it's enabled, I'm going to open to the map view and I'm going to be able to plot a point. Let's say maybe I'm doing an inspection, but maybe it's up in, we'll put it around Pittsburgh maybe. So I can drop a point there. Now it's going to give me the longitude, latitude of that specific location. Now, this would be used, if you integrate it with Esri, then it would be used to plot the point on the map at that specific spot. But if you choose not to, you're just capturing the longitude and latitude of where you drop that point on the specific map. So in my scenario, I don't want to open up to a map view. I just want to go into a list view and use my current location to capture this information. So in this scenario, I'm just going to disable it because I do not want it to open to the map view. So that's the way to turn on if it opens to map view or to not. So we're going to save it back here. Now before I get started, I'm first going to go and make sure we link this up with ArcGIS Online. So we have our form created. Now we're ready to go to ArcGIS Online. So I'm going to go to the link here. And inside of here, I'm going to look for the form that I have. So let me just expand this a little bit so you can see. Now, here's some forms that are already connected. I've already linked up my ArcGIS Online account. You'll see I have all Zerion here. And I have a few forms that are already connected. So our boom, building inspection, and many other ones here. But I've built the form. It has an Esri widget on here so I can see it. So I'm just going to choose this form and hit publish with existing data. So what this is going to do, as long as I don't have any existing clashing feature service names on there, is going to go into ArcGIS Online. And again, this is quite a large form, so it's going to take some time to build it. But once it builds it, it's going to be there as a feature service, and we can add that to a map. So now that it's completed, I'm just going to go into the My Content section here quickly of ArcGIS Online. And I'm going to look down. Here's our wetlands form. So we see this was created today. I can go into here, and I can take a look at this form for this feature service. And what we're going to do now is we're going to open this one and add this layer to a new map. Now, since I went in here and I published it with existing data, what it's going to do is take any record I've previously collected and plot it on that point via the modified location. So where I created this record at, or where I last edited this record at. So I'm going to open up this map here, and I can see that I was doing some stuff here last night. See our points here in just a second. Should be loading here. Looks like we're having a few issues with the map rendering, so we'll have to zoom in a little farther. It looks like we have to be at a certain extent for it to work. So I have a few points on here. You'll see this is some of the data that I collected earlier on this. So you see you have all the data in here, and these are points. And basically what you could do is go in and change any of this data if you want. Maybe this one failed and this one passed, or you want to apply polygon features to it or anything like that. You could work on the map. But in this scenario, the map's only used in the office here, so we're not going to be putting it on the mobile device. We're just going to be syncing data from the forms into this map. So now that we have that set up, we're going to go back to our device, and I'm just going to complete one of the wetland forms and show you that it will plot a point on the map at our location, and then we'll look at it on the map as well as the custom report that's generated. So you'll see what I have here first is capture location field. So essentially I have a script set up behind here that when I hit done on my location, it's actually going to pull in the street address that we're at. So based on our longitude and latitude, it's going to make a web call and say I'm at 13665 Dulles Technology in Herndon, Virginia. So now I know this is where I'm constructing that, and it's kind of like a dual confirmation. You have your longitude and latitude as well as the direct street address. I'm going to put in my email address here because I want the report to be sent directly to me when it is completed. And I'm just going to quickly run through this form again. It is quite long. You'll see I'm populating the longitude and latitude in here from the widget. Again, there's 200 fields, so I'm just going to quickly click through this just to show you kind of how the data output will then look. So again, we have some toggles set up here for the hydrology section, and you're going to toggle on and off anything that you need access to. And you'll see we do have some smart logic in here. So if the saturation is present, then we're going to show the depth in inches here. So again, this form is pretty long, but it does have some complex functionality to it as well. Again, we're putting some labels in here to describe different pieces of information, percentage of land cover, and I'll just go down to the rest of this form and submit it. We don't need to fill out everything just for purpose of this demo. So once I hit done here, once we hit connectivity, it's going to sync up this record, and this will be plotted here on our ArcGIS Online map. And while we're waiting for the map to reload, or while the map's reloading, we should be getting an email here any minutes with our wetlands form and the custom report that was rendered from it. So I'm just going to do a refresh here, and let's double check and make sure that our point was successfully propagated across.
Hi, Ben. Do you have a moment to answer some questions right now?
I do, yes.
So the first question or I guess it's twofold. This is coming from Ray. He says, can you publish feature service with relationship classes, as well as is the feature service editable within ArcMap?
Right, great question. So at the moment, our ArcGIS Online connector only supports flat forms. So in this scenario, this form had a few subforms, but those would not be propagated across. If you wanted to view that data, you'd need to view it in the subform or relational data in iFormBuilder.com. Now, also to answer the second question, this feature service is editable. I mean, you could turn that on or off, but by default, we have it as editable because we want to support the ability to do an update feature. So yes, it is editable. But that's something that we are looking to get towards and seeing how we can work with related tables and those types of things in ArcGIS, because our platform does it quite well, but when it's propagated to ArcGIS, we only send the parent form data at this moment. Now I know there is some folks out there who have built their own custom integrations that have been plotting and almost building the subforms to go into their appropriate places in ArcGIS Online, in Arc Server, wherever that may be. So yes, it is doable, but in our implementation, we do not have that at this moment.
Thank you, Ben. Another question is, can this also connect to ArcGIS Server?
Yes, great question. So there are a few ways to connect to ArcGIS Server. I mean, the first bare bones one is you essentially have iFormBuilder post set up, so every record you submit would automatically go into ArcGIS Server. Now that can be set up using Zapier, maybe connecting to like the SQL database. We do have a new SQL connector that we are looking at adding as kind of an add-on to the platform that would allow you to take iFormBuilder data and dump it into a SQL database, which would be then running ArcGIS Server. There's also a GitHub add-in on ArcGIS for ArcGIS Desktop that allows you to get the data into there, and then from there you could publish to your Arc server. And so those are a few options, but at the moment we don't have like a direct integration to it. It is with ArcGIS Online since they both are cloud-based. So that is something we are looking to get to, though.
All right. Well, thank you, Ben. There's another question, and this one is more regarding like the lat long and altitude and what we're actually capturing on the locational data, essentially. So this person's wondering about if it's possible, instead of capturing the lat long, but to use the projection system, their local national projection systems instead. And to give you a little bit more detail, they're capturing directly. If they were to use that local national projection system, that would allow them to capture directly in the X and Y of their local national projection system, which would then make it easier to integrate those records with their back office GIS without having them to transform the lat long into that X and Y. I know that right now we only have the lat long, altitude, and accuracy, but do you know of a solution where it could be a little bit more easy to configure based off the lat long going into their X and Y?
Right. No, that sounds really like a good question. So essentially, the main holdup, I guess, would be that when we capture the data, I mean, you see everything that's captured in our location widget. Now we use like the basic coordinate system to plot it on the map there. So again, you could write some maybe custom JavaScript functions on the back end that could convert it to the exact format you're looking for. I know folks have done that in the past, converting from lat long to whatever other coordinate system that conversion would be. It could be a JavaScript function. But other than that, I mean, we use our basic lat long and these fields that you see here on the screen to capture and plot that data. So that may be some kind of middleman processing job that you do before the data hits your side in order to do that.
All right, and then there's a little follow-up question with that, and it says, do web feature services that they host on their ArcGIS server or online, do they need to also be in lat long as well for them to work with iFormBuilder? Their current workflow, their web feature services are currently set to their local projection system.
Right. So if you have a feature service coming from like your server to ArcGIS Online, we do not support that at the moment. It has to be hosted directly on ArcGIS Online to use our Arc connector piece. And with regards, I mean, I can't speak too much to the lat long coordinate systems. I mean, we would plot it as the longitude and latitude that we send across on there. So it depends how that gets propagated to your specific system.
I think we probably have to test that out a little bit to see how that would work.
Yeah, certainly, I agree. And I'd be happy to follow up with you after the call, too, to discuss a little more detail on that.
All right, great questions. And that's it for now, Ben.
Okay, great. So I just wanted to show, here's the plot, or the point I just captured. It was plotted on our map here, so I can see here's all the information that I have for this. So again, just showing that I submitted this record, and then a few seconds later, it appeared on the map. Now, I also do want to show the web merge generation that's coming off of it here. So essentially, when this record is submitted, what it's going to do is send us a PDF copy of the data that was submitted from iFormBuilder, and will be in this PDF here. So again, we'll see it has Herndon, Virginia, and I apologize I didn't fill in every field here, but we'll see, are the vegetation, yes, 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 no. Again, here's all the tick boxes that I sent earlier. So again, this is a pretty awesome tool that allows you to pretty much upload a fillable PDF and make changes to it and propagate all the data from an iFormBuilder record submission into this form. So again, this can be outputted here. This is all turned around. I mean, once you complete the form, it's turned around to you instantaneously and emailed to your inbox. So it is a pretty solid solution that encompasses a few pieces, which is the iFormBuilder forms, web merge for custom reports, and the ArcGIS Online for the data visualization there. So the next thing I just want to open up, go back here, and start discussing the next demo that I want to go into. Now, this demo is pretty popular for a lot of folks because it allows them to really get a custom base map on ArcGIS, the ArcGIS mobile applications, and then invoke a specific form off of this. So this is something we did show at the Esri UC this year, and we debuted it, I guess last year it was now. But essentially, the ability to call an iForm application from the ArcGIS Popup. So in your map, you'd configure a specific Popup, and that would be called to iForm through a specific URL scheme. So each app has its own URL scheme, and I'll go into a little more detail on how to configure that scheme here shortly. So essentially, in this scenario, the iForm app is opened, and essentially you can capture all of your data with the application, and then submit that data to the server. But the key here is that when you're passing data from the ArcGIS Desk or ArcGIS mobile applications to the iFormBuilder forms, you can actually pass specific data fields. So you could pass every parent level field from your feature and even the object IDs to relate it, and that would be propagated and shown directly in the form. So I'll be configuring that here shortly. But essentially, for this whole loop to work, you would then submit the data from iFormBuilder, and then it would update that feature service. So I'm going to show this actually through a work order scenario. So let's go down here to the next slide. But this, essentially, you're a public service group, and you will be completing work orders around a city. So maybe a manager or an admin or even field workers are dropping work orders on the map, and they're maybe, let's say, they're red dots for right now, and showing we need to fix a street light or install a stop sign, whatever that may be. What we're going to use in this scenario is ArcGIS data for data visualization. This is the ArcGIS Online side of things. And then we're going to use ArcGIS mobile applications, specifically Collector, to view the map and see all of your open work orders. And again, this is a connected solution, so you're going to see maybe 20 or 30 work orders out there, and as folks are submitting it, those points are going to be changing from red to green. So I just want to go through now how to configure the URL scheme, because I know folks have had some trouble configuring it in the past. So the first step to get this integration off the ground is first to create a form, which I've already done. I've made a work order form that allows for different work orders that were performed to be captured in that, and I'll show that form here in just a minute. And then once we build that form, we want to publish it to ArcGIS Online via the Arc connector. So we're taking a step forward from just using the Arc connector to also using the Arc connector, but then using the front end, the mobile applications piece. Now, after that, we want to make sure, once we publish the feature service for this form, we want to make sure we can create a map from that exact service. Now, once we're done with that, we're going to move to step 2. So once we have our map up, we're going to want to configure a custom pop-up to call the iForm application. Now, everything that I have here in bold is the important pieces of getting this to work smoothly. So you'll see this is kind of what our final design will look like. We'll have a few fields, so when it was created, the title, the description, date used, and hours used. These will all be iFormBuilder fields. And then down here we have a URL. So I'll be able to see all the details about the work order, and when it's due and the hours that have been used. But then if I want to claim it as myself, I can hit claim work order, and it'll invoke an iFormBuilder form. So how we configure this is first you have the iForm : // So this is a URL scheme. You can enter it in Safari or really any browser on your iOS device, and it'll open up the iForm application. But just opening up the iForm application doesn't do enough. We need to figure out how we open up a specific form. So Our URL is going to be iForm:// to open the application. Then we're going to put in this piece here, the page ID. So our page ID is the identifier of that specific form, and that can be found in iFormBuilder.com, which I'll show here in a minute. We also want to pair it with an action. So the action that we're going to be using is a new record. So we're going to open up a new record. We're going to open up this page ID, and we're going to open up the iForm application, is where we're at. Now, we want to start passing a few fields across to the iForm application. The first being the object ID. We want to pass this across so we can actually perform an update feature on the backend side. So changing that point from, let's say, a red dot to let's say, a green dot when it's completed. So we're going to say object ID with a capital I equals, and then this is going to be the attribute from ArcGIS Online. So that'll be configured in the pop-up. And then the final thing here is the iForm columns that we want to pass in. So if you have an iForm column called iForm column in your data column name, you'd want to set it equal to a column that you want to specify in Esri. So maybe I have my name. I'd want to put my name equals then the column my name from the ArcGIS side of things. So I'm just going to go over here to the third step and just show you kind of what the final URL would look like. So it's going to be iForm:// question mark this page ID we're going to open up. Then we're going to open up a new record. Then we're going to pass across the object ID, and we're going to pass across some iForm columns. Now, if you want to send, maybe let's say 20 more columns across, you would essentially put and iForm column equals and continue going on. You could put as many columns as you want and populate all those with data. Now, once we finish that URL, we're going to save it, and we're going to save our map. And now it'll be propagated to your collector or your ArcGIS, the Green app, or any of the ArcGIS apps for visualization. So now I'm going to go back into my screen here and run through these steps here in a little more detail. So I'm just going to go into Form Builder here quickly and show you the form that we put together. So we're going to go into Esri UC work order parent. So I'm going to load this form. Again, we're required to have an Esri widget on this form. I have when the work order was created, that'll be populated to like the new date. We have title field, description of tasks, when is the work due. We have a subform to capture all the work that's performed. We're going to calculate the hours that are worked on the fly, and maybe we say if the work is completed or not. Now this will dictate whether it should be a yes or a no or a red or a green dot on our map. So here's the form, and I'll show it on my device here in a second. But let's first publish this to ArcGIS Online so we can start configuring our map. So I'm going to go to the URL here, and we'll see that I'm linked up again. And I want to choose on Esri work order parent is what I called this. And we have existing work orders we've already filled out, so we want to publish those to the map as well. So I'm going to hit publish with existing data.
And Ben, just a question that came in about the final URL. I know you're going to be showing that in a second, but what parts of the final URL need to be customized? Is it just the column name?
Right. So I can go back to the slide here quickly, but essentially the parts that need to be customized are, this is all going to be standard, iForm:// page ID and action. These are the things that are required. Now, things that need to be customized are here. So the object ID, maybe you pass in a global ID instead of an object ID. You want to put global ID here. And then for the iForm columns, this would be customized. These things are all going to be static here. The only thing that'll change inside of here is the page ID. So there is a few required steps in the URL, but then there's also some optional and more customized steps you can add into there.
And
so
you're going to show it, yeah, I was going to say, you're going to show it to us as well, right?
Yes, certainly. So I'm just going to go here. It looks like we built the feature service, so it's ready to go. So we'll add it to a map, and we'll start implementing this here quickly. So let's open up Esri work order. We see it was just built here. It's ready to go. And we're going to open this layer and add it to a new map. And while the map's loading, let's discuss kind of the things we're going to do in here. So the first thing we want to do is let's just confirm that we have some of these points already existing on the map, which I see we do. So you'll see we had some folks here in our office testing, and then some folks out in San Diego for the user conference doing the same thing. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to configure this to show red dots versus green dots based upon a specific attribute. So we're going to go into here and we're going to say work completed, and we want to have the types as unique options here. So now we see we have yes, no, and other. So there's 28 no's and this many yeses. So if the work is a no, we're going to keep it as a red dot. But if it's a green, let's change this symbol. Or if it's a yes, let's change this symbol maybe to a green dot here. So we'll take this and we'll make it a tad bit bigger. Okay. And now we're just going to save this here. So we can apply any other editing we want, but just for this example, we're just going to show red dots versus green dots. And red dots will indicate open work orders, which meaning the work is not yet completed. And green dots are going to indicate work orders that are completed. So let's find, here's one. Work orders that are completed. So here's a yes. Now what we're going to do next is choose, right here there's 3 little dots. This will open a drop-down menu, and we can configure a custom pop-up in here. So we'll hit configure custom pop-up. Now we'll keep the pop-up title as we want. We'll keep it as the table name, and we want to change this from a list of field attributes to a custom attribute display. Now this is pretty important that you do this, or it's not going to give you the interface you're looking for. So we choose configure. Now this is going to pop up this custom interface. Now I'm going to quickly just design a few small fields in here. So let's put in maybe when the work order was created. Work order created. And then another one where we want to set in the title of the work order, just so we know the details on this. And make sure this is very, relevant to users, because this is kind of what they'll be seeing. So they need to know when it was created, the title of it, and maybe like a description of the work, so they know actually what work orders are taking. We're also going to put in maybe when the work orders due. And then we're going to also say, was the work completed? So again, these are the placeholders that I was showing in the slides earlier. So let's put in work completed. And then at the end of this here, we're going to start configuring a URL. Now this is going to be, we'll call this claim work order, and we'll say it's going to open iForm, just for demo's sake. Now, just to save some space, we're actually going to construct our URL right in this pop-up window. So it's going to first start with iForm://. So this is going to open the iForm application. Then we need to follow our structure. So it's going to be $page, all lowercase, capital I, and then a lowercase d. And you're going to say page ID equals. Now we need to find what page ID this is. So how we do that is we go back into iFormBuilder in our data tab, and we're able to see that we have the, let's see, Esri work order parent. We'll see the ID of this is 873. So this will be shown right in the data tab. So we're going to grab this and put in 873. So we're hard coding in which page it's going to open up to. We're also going to put an action. The action is going to be equal to new. So these two things at a minimum are required for the application to open. So I'm first going to go through and do the rest of these so we can see it, and then we'll open up and test our work. So now that we have the page ID and the action, we want to pass in the object ID. So again, lowercase object, capital I, and lowercase d is going to equal the object ID from the form here. So, or actually it's feature ID. So when we publish a record, we publish the feature ID, and you want to link that up with the object ID. So I'll hit feature ID here. And it depends, you could use different IDs depending on what is generated, but this one only generated a feature ID. So again, at the moment it's going to pass in the page ID, the action, the object ID, and we're going to pass in, let's just do 2 more fields for time's sake. So we're going to do, let's pass in the title. So how we get this is we want to go into the form builder and copy the column name of the title that you have in, or the data column name that you have. So we'll open up Esri work order parent, and let's go to the title, and we see it's called title 1. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to paste it in here and say title 1 is equal to title 1. So again, it's going to take whatever we entered in title and pass it into the application. We're also going to do the same thing with another field. We'll do it with description. So let's go in here. Let's copy our description field. Description of task to be completed is going to be equal to the description of task to be completed again. So those are the fields that we'll be passing across. And maybe let's pass one more field in. Let's pass the due date in just so we have that. And we'll say work orders due is going to be equal to the work order due. So again, I know that took some time to configure there, but essentially we'll just review it quickly. So there's a few pieces. The first is the page ID and the action. The next one here is the object ID. So we're going to pass in a feature ID there, and then all of our iForm columns start here. So we'll see title 1 is equal to title 1, description of task to be completed is equal to description of task to be completed, when it's due, and those types of details. So I'm just going to save this here and put this all into the URL. So I'm going to copy this and highlight claim work order and choose this link option. Now, here's what our description is. We'll put in a URL. And it's going to say the URL is invalid because it can't verify this because it can only verify it via the iOS device. So we're going to just set that. So yeah, just ignore that. And I'm just going to click OK here. And I'm going to save my pop-up. And let's confirm and look at the pop-up here. So if I choose on one of these, we'll see here's our pop-up. So I'm going to just click on this link and copy it into a text editor or somewhere just to show you kind of what it looks like. So we'll see, I guess we could look it up in here, but we'll see the object ID is equal to 26, the title 1 is equal to install park bench, the description is equal to install a park bench on the street corner. Again, so all these fields are what's going to be passed across the iFormBuilder. So let's go in and let's save this map, and let's try this on our collector application. So work order map webinar, we'll give it a tag, and we'll save that map. So I'm just going to swap over here quickly to the collector application. And what we're going to see now, we're going to load up our new map here. So let's just do a quick refresh here and make sure we have everything. This was called Work Order Webinar, we called it. So let's kill this app from background and make sure that we are downloading the right new map that we built. So work order map webinar, there it is. So let's open up this map. Now when we choose it here, we're going to confirm and let's make sure we set this URL up right. But I'll see I have a list of red work orders in here. So I could choose on any of these work orders. So let's just tap on one of these. Now we can see here is all of the when the work order was created, a description for it. Let's try to pick a better one that maybe has a better description so we can show it here. So I believe we have one over here that we could use. So basically this one's a test and it says need to clean up some things. So basically we're going to choose on claim work order, and it's going to invoke the iForm application, pass in our object ID, pass in the title, pass in the description, when the work order is due. Now what I'm going to do is go through here and enter the work that was performed for this. So again, I'm going to say what materials did I use? I used concrete and jackhammer and a shovel. I want to maybe take a photo of the work that was completed. So I'll go in here, use our annotation widget, take a photograph of outside, and I'll use that as a background image. And I will, let's draw maybe like a circle around the work we did. And I'll hit done. And then I can say how many hours did I work? I worked 4 hours on this, and here's my signature of it. And when I hit done, we're actually going to see that it is going to calculate the hours worked right on the fly here. So maybe we want to add in some more work that we have done on this, so we can just tap on here again, enter work performed, enter new materials, take a new photograph, again, how many hours worked, and sign off on it. Now when I hit done, again, it's going to tally up my hours worked, and I'm going to say, yes, this work order was completed. So when I submit done, now my map should be updated, and it should show a green point where that work order was. So we're just going to let it upload this data here. And now what we're going to do is swap back directly to the collector application. And let's just do a quick reload of the map if it didn't didn't get the update in time. And we should see that our point is now changed from a red dot to a green dot with the new information on there. So again, now we see over here, here's our dot, here's the work order that was completed, and now that it is a green dot. So again, that's kind of the full circle from first taking the collector application, invoking a form, then capturing the data across there. And again, if you missed that, I'll just show it one quick time. So once I tap on this URL, it's going to, again, invoke the form and pass in our data there. So it is a pretty quick transition between the two applications, and then when you sync up that data on the back end, it'll update that specific feature. So do we have any questions to this point on this? I'm sure there may be a bunch on it.
Actually, Ben, I think it's pretty quiet. We've had some questions, but as you've been going through it, I've responded to them. So I think we are good to continue.
Okay, great. No, that's perfect. So that I'll just want to go through here. The next piece is talking about really how you work with points, lines, and polygons. Now, by default, iFormBuilder captures points and plots them on a map, and we do that very well. But when working with ArcGIS, we don't have the ability to do lines and polygons directly in our application. So that's where we've kind of developed a link with ArcGIS Collector and any of their mobile applications to let them do the mapping portions of these things, so such as creating the points or lines or polygons, and then allowing iFormBuilder to capture the data that's associated with those things. So kind of seeing us as the what you're capturing, and then Esri as really the where, and where these points, where these lines, and where these polygons do exist. So the only difference in using points versus lines and polygons is that when you are creating a new point in iFormBuilder on your form, well, you can submit it to the map and it'll create a point on the ArcGIS map. But when you're working with a line and a polygon, you can't create that on iFormBuilder. So what you'd want to do is create that on the collector side of things. So draw your lines, draw your polygon, and then invoke an iFormBuilder form off of that. So what I'm going to do here, and this is actually the scenario for this is a structure barrier. So essentially you have a list of field workers, and they're all inspecting different barrier portions on a highway. And this demo really encompasses a few things. I'm not going to show configuring it just for time's sake. I'm going to show it kind of in action. But essentially this is using ArcGIS mobile apps to build the lines of the polygons, and then we're using ArcGIS to then visualize it, and iFormBuilder to capture the data associated with those points, lines, or polygons. So I'm going to go over here to my device and open up let's just go back to our main screen here. Open up the collector application, and we're going to see that I have a barrier placement form on here. So I'm going to open up this barrier placement form, and this is going to allow me to draw lines on this specific map here. So again, I'm going to go into here, and I have a custom pop-up configured with iForm, but I'm going to say this is a verified point, and I'm going to start drawing my point here. So again, this is going to be connecting here. Oh, you need to start streaming and pause the streaming. So again, we're going to be making our lines here. So I'm going to say this is the region that I am taking here, and I could give it a type if I chose to. I could say it's like a vicious sweep. And then we just want to submit this because we're pretty much building the line here for the barrier, and then we want to save this, but then capture the data and maybe the inspection details about this via iFormBuilder. So I'm going to choose on this line. Now I have some details here, and actually all we're going to pass across is that object identifier. So when I choose collect barrier information, it's going to invoke the appropriate form, pass in the object ID, send our type across, and I can capture all the information about this now. So this one is truly where you're building a line in collector or a polygon and then invoking the form off of it. So we'll say this is, I don't know, this is 160 feet long and it's 2 feet wide, and we can take a photograph of this barrier here. So I'll go outside, and we don't have any barriers here today, but we'll use that photograph. And is this a low, high priority to be fixed, and was it verified, yes or no? I can go in here and take multiple photographs about this. So again, I can go in, take a photo, annotation, comment, and for time's sake, I'm not going to go through all of these, but again, you take many photos about this and you would verify this. Now, I do not have this one linked up to the backend, so it's not going to perform an update feature, which I just did not have time to implement here today. But essentially, it's going to upload this data, and you're going to have that stored, and you know it's associated with object ID 10 or 9 or 7 or whatever that one may be passing across. So again, I'll just show you here quickly. In collector, you create a point, and you start streaming here. And during this, you can drop the points wherever you wish, and you can connect them appropriately inside of the application here.
Hi, Ben. We have some questions coming in about this. The first one says, is it possible to stream a line in collector and collect point information in iFormBuilder without having to stop the streaming of the line?
So that's a great question. I am not entirely sure, as I'm not sure if ArcGIS continues streaming while you go to the other application here. So it looks like it may be, because it still says it's using my location. So I'm wondering if it would continue the streaming. I guess that's something we would have to test. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but if this, as long as this application can run and stream in the background, then there shouldn't be any problem why you couldn't do that.
All right, thank you, Ben. Another question is, can you pass photos taken with collector into iForm? And I know, as we know, we can take photos in iForm, but can you have that data pass the other way?
At the moment, we cannot pass a direct photo data. We could pass a URL to the photograph, and then from there, that could be maybe in a text field or an attachment widget, and you can choose it and open up the photograph there. But we do not support passing photos right now. It will just be textual or URL data.
All right, and then another question is, does this also just work with the collector app for iOS, or does Android as well?
So right now it is just iOS. The main reason for that is because we're not able to configure a custom pop-up to invoke the Android application at the moment, right? Because Android has a very different way of communicating with different applications as opposed to iOS. In iOS, it's a URL scheme, but in Android, it's a package name. And without getting into too many details, that's the main limitation that we're seeing here. We are able to be invoked from any other application. It's just the way that we would configure a custom pop-up, ArcGIS does not allow for that to happen at the moment.
So it's not a limitation that we have on our end. It's really a limitation on the collector app, is that, or Esri ArcGIS, is that right?
Yes, that is right. So what I know some folks have done in the past is actually build their own using the ArcGIS SDK. Is you can build your own custom map, and then you could actually put in custom code to call the iFormBuilder application. Again, that is much more involved, and it's something we're looking to see if it's something that folks want. They want to have maybe custom base maps or custom maps directly inside of iFormBuilder without even going through the collector, because then we could get around this barrier that we're facing on the Esri side. But again, it is still kind of up for discussion.
Okay, that's a great response, and thank you for that. I know you and I, Ben, have talked about trying to get those custom base maps in there, and those of you who are interested in that, we are going to try to figure out a way, and we'll be in touch later on about that. Another question that's coming through is, can iForm handle cascading selections and then push it as a feature service, perhaps as a subtype?
So yes, we can handle cascading selections. So I don't believe I have a form on it right now. I'll have to look on here and see what I have. But essentially, a lot of scenarios are you choose maybe field A, you have a few options in there, and based on what you choose, that'll dictate the subform down below. So yes, that can be configured in the form. I mean, we can work with very, very complex cascading lists. I mean, we have some folks doing thousands of options, and it's just they go through the form, and each lists are changing based upon the previous answer. So we do have, I mean, a good articles on that and a few good forms that we could sample and maybe show if you want to reach out to us after on how to configure that.
All right, that's it for now, Ben.
Okay, no, perfect. I know we're running close on time here, so I just wanted to go in and just show after the points, lines, and polygons here, just maybe some additional mapping tools. I'm not sure what some folks are using, but first I just want to go over a tool, and then we'll have a pool on seeing what folks are looking to use or what they may want to use in the future. So if I go back into this URL here, I'm actually sending the data for a specific form. This is an agriculture inspection, and obviously some of these points are not in the right spot. But essentially the data is all coming into a Google spreadsheet on the Google side. So here's all the data from iFormBuilder, who inspected it, the type of plan it was, any details about it, and then the longitude and latitude here. Now what we're doing is making a custom map here from that longitude and latitude. So I could apply some filters here. I could edit this map as needed. But essentially, you could use a different mapping application than ArcGIS to work with iFormBuilder, since out of the box we could work with really any other tool. So that's just one example of it, but there is a few other examples that we do have that I won't be able to show today, but it's working with OpenStreetMap and Mapbox and a few other tools on sending data from iFormBuilder and then visualizing it in their specific software. So we did want to do a pool, but I mean, a lot of folks have been using like Google Maps or Google Earth. It's pretty cool. So you can overlay. I don't know if anyone was watching at the when we had our little event in the middle of the user conference, but someone was actually debuting Google Maps and showing like pipelines underground, and this was actually using Google Earth. We have a lot of folks making some pretty cool maps on CarterDB, and Bing Maps is a pretty powerful application as well with pretty nice imagery at a low level, and Mapbox as well as OpenStreetMap. There's been a lot of pretty cool integrations with those as well. And it's good because a lot of these tools, I mean, they have their pros and cons. I mean, Esri kind of being the giant in that space, but some of these other simple tools, you may not need the complex features of Esri. So that would be a good use to use those. So I'm glad to see that for sure. All right, so kind of in closing here, we just wanted to talk about a few new things that we're working on. So the first one is Gnosis. So Gnosis we've kind of working on for the past year now, and it's really a data storage and data processing tool. Because really for years people have been capturing good, robust data using iFormBuilder and then sending it to the reporting system, and then your reporting system would have to do all the data processing and data crunching, and some reporting systems, quite frankly, couldn't handle it because of the use of subforms or different relationships in this data. So there's always kind of been a middle ground that hasn't been solved, and that's really where we're trying to aim with Gnosis. So the ability to capture good, robust data, secure it and store it all on a trust no one architecture, and then process that data and then deliver it to you in the correct and appropriate ways, all securely. So maybe you have 1 million records and you only care about maybe like a sum, or I mean maybe how many things failed, that type of thing. You don't need to get all 1 million records in your system. You just need maybe that summary, that single 3-4 fields that say there were 1 million records and 10 of them failed and 900 of them passed, that type of thing. So then when data hits your servers, it's quite easy to manipulate. The reporting system will have a much easier time doing it now. So right now, I mean, just some challenges we're having are when we send our data to, let's say, Clipfolio or Google Docs or any of these other systems, they have to process it. But if we can deliver it to them in a way that's not so much where they need to process it, we can just deliver it to them already pre-processed. It's a benefit to the reporting side of things as well as the data collection side of things. So a good middle tool. And again, with security, it's all built on a trust no one architecture. So again, if you lose your key, and we don't store any of your keys, because if you lose your key, then you lose your data there. So again, we want to make sure that it is stored securely. Everything will be fully encrypted, and again, the processing aspect of it. So again, we do have some folks using it now in beta, doing a lot of pretty powerful things with it, and we're looking forward to debuting it and getting folks to implement it some more. So Barrett, do you have anything to add?
Not about Gnosis, but if you go to the next slide, I do. Well, if there are any questions or comments, feel free to continue to put them in. But I've also put Ben and my email address in the chat, so you can contact us at any time if you have more questions or you need some support. And then the last thing, Ben, we have one more slide.
There we are.
This is just some additional links. So once we send out the recording with the PDF, if you open the PDF, you'll be able to click on these links. But this just has Ben's email address, and I also placed that in the chat. This link to where our future session list of webinars is located, but also if you're looking to view the recording of past sessions, you can go there as well. We do offer implementation support. If you are getting started with a project or you have a project that you'd like some assistance with, then you can purchase implementation support and we'd be happy to help. We have some training courses that we also offer. And if you have a dedicated database and you haven't participated in the Kickstart training program, that is available for everybody with dedicated databases. And before I run out of breath here, we also have an ebook. So we have 2 ebooks that people have found to be very helpful in getting started with iFormBuilder and seeing the benefits of the platform. And if you have a little flight or you have a couple moments to spare, then I would suggest downloading those ebooks to get some quick reading done. Ben, do you have anything else?
No, I do not. Kind of in closing, I mean, just like to thank everyone for attending, and it's always good to chat about the ArcGIS and the mapping world and really see kind of where everything is and kind of show what we're doing. And if you do have any, I mean, comments, suggestions, feel free to email them. We're putting on our vote for features, and we can see kind of how we can maybe work with a new mapping software or something like that, or improve our integration with Esri. So we'd be more than happy to chat about that.
And thank you guys so much, and thank you, Ben, for your time and effort today. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your day, and please join us on some future webinars.